Hi ladies and gents, my name is Thom Gibson and this is part of a 3-part series that I'm doing called the best business books to influence your teaching. In this video, we are looking at Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. Not completely business, more like personal finance, but best business books sounded better than best non-fiction books. I like alliterations. The Total Money Makeover is basically a handbook for how to handle money and get out of debt quickly. And I think the biggest influence that can have on your teaching is just like the students, when we don't have certain things in order in our life, sometimes it makes it difficult to come to class and be fully present. If our financial life is something that is a stressor for us and we don't know where to begin and beginning to organize it and getting on track, that's going to influence how we show up for the kids. And so while this has had some impact on some of the financial literacy stuff that I do in my classroom, the biggest thing is that this book actually helped me and my wife pay off $120,000 of her medical school student loans. And I've got a whole video that I'll link to on what we actually did to do that in less than 4 years. But the book, in addition to helping us pay off debt, has been huge in how it's shaped my view of money and handling money and managing my own money. And the freedom that comes from not being in debt and having a budget and knowing where my money is going. When I go to school, knowing that I have a plan for my money and I know where my money's going and I'm not just hoping things turn out okay, it helps me to be more present for the students. Additionally, the way I teach financial literacy in my math class is through a classroom economy, and through the things that happen in the classroom economy, I actually get to share many of just the general money principles that I learned from this book with the students. For example, one of the big things in our classroom economy is for students to avoid going into debt. We have conversations about how can we actually raise our income in addition to the salary that we have for our class job. Is there a business that you can start? Is there opportunities for supplemental income from extracurriculars that are being offered to the class that you could take advantage of? Are there certain ways that you can limit the amount of money that's going out? Are you getting a lot of fines in class for being off task or having missing work? Can we work to remedy that and not get as many fines in the classroom economy so we can get out of debt and stay out of debt? Dave Ramsey's a big proponent of taking your money and putting it into 3 buckets: your give bucket, your save bucket, and your spend bucket. And so in the classroom economy, I thought, well, how can we take this pretend money and actually give it to charity or something like that? And so I've done something where they actually partner with their parents and they say, okay, if my child gives $1,000 of classroom economy money to charity, then we are actually going to give X dollars, $50, $100 to a real charity with our real money, to a charity that we decide on as a family with real money. And so the students' classroom economy money is being translated into real money that they are giving to a charity, which I think is an important lesson to learn how to do it. If you're struggling to do it with pretend money in a classroom, it's not going to get easier to do when you are making real money that you can use anywhere. According to Dave Ramsey's plan, the first step to getting out of debt is having a $1,000 emergency fund. Eventually, when you're out of debt, you want a lot bigger emergency fund, but just start with a $1,000 emergency fund. And so in my classroom economy, I've told students, you never know what might happen, so you might want to have some emergency savings just in case something happens. They're like, what could ever happen? In previous years, I have had an emergency where if there was like a big storm that came the night before, I'm like, oh man, the storm really actually destroyed a lot of stuff in the classroom, but luckily we were able to get it all cleaned up before you guys started class today. The kids were like, what, did that really happen? Thankfully, if you had an emergency fund, it's going to cost $750 per student to pay for the repairs. And they're like, oh, so the kids that didn't have an emergency fund ended up probably going into debt, where the kids that did were prepared. And so I recommend the Total Money Makeover for yourself, and if you're teaching financial literacy in any way to your students, it's going to be a great resources of just conversations to have and mindsets to hopefully adopt in young people about how they think about money, and not just thinking about it as, I hope I get enough and I'm just going to spend on the things that I want and maybe there'll be enough by the end of the month. If you want to get more in depth on how I actually structure and do all the stuff with my classroom economy for the financial literacy piece in my class, I've got a course for teachers called How to Create and Manage a Classroom Economy. I'll link it in the description, but it's also at thomgibson.com/classroom economy. But this is the third and the final installment of the best books to influence your teaching series that I've been doing here on my channel. If you'd like to see the other 2 books that I did, I'll go ahead and link them in the description down below. Additionally, I actually have 2 2 Instagram accounts. I've got my teacher one, Gibson Education, but I've got a whole other one called Books Beef Jerky. It's where I review some of the books that I read. Most of them don't have anything to do with education, but it's just books that I find interesting in my personal development. And I also really like jerky, and so there's some beef jerky reviews in there as well. So if you want to keep up with some of the other books that I'm reading and what I am learning from them, you can check that out at Books Beef Jerky. If you'd like to stay in the loop with any upcoming videos, I post content here that is meant to help you do innovative work in your classroom. Then go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be notified immediately when a new video comes out. My name is Thom Gibson. I hope you learned something today, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.